Everything you do here, here, or here goes in here and ends up here. Over applying chemical
Check. Okay, call this meeting of the North Kansas City Planning Commission to order. First order of business is approval of the agenda from the September 4th, 2025 meeting of the Planning Commission.
Motion to approve.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okie dokie. Comments from the public? Don't be shy. Moving on. Regular agenda items. The first item is a discussion for the master plan update kickoff. Shu?
This is the only item on the agenda tonight, and thank you all for making it here on such a cold evening. I know December is always a gamble, but thank you very much for being here. We're trying to gathering here to identify a pre-kickoff meeting here before we start our real kickoff meeting for the master plan update. I know quite a few of you have already in the discussion for our master plan update, but generally I would like to provide a little background of what is our master plan and what does it do. So our current master plan was adopted back in 2016, and it was about 10 years ago, and this is typically how long the life cycle is for a master plan. And the master plan is designed generally to represent the voice of the community, mostly guiding and regarding to the future growth of the city. Say what type of development we want, what density do we want, where do we want. And then it is developed through a large amount of coordination, and it is usually in a very efficient and effective manner till it gets outdated. So after numerous meetings and conversations with different stakeholders, including council members, community leaders, business owners, we had the feeling that we need to update the master plan. And this topic evolved like probably about a couple years ago. From the moment we were preparing to update it till now, we can have a kickoff after we sign a contract with Olson, the company, to do our general, they're our general contractor, to do the overall master plan update. Now we're very happy to announce where the update is under its way. So there are two handouts. I put it on the desk for you. One of them has this colorful column, and it's a landscape orientation. That is generally what the contents are embedded in this process. They are divided into engagement activities and deliverables, and they are in different phases. Overall, there are about 5 phases. There is a phase of initiating. That's, of course, the first phase. That's what we're talking about. And ours is actually phase 0 as of right now. And I will talk a little bit about what we're trying to do here. And the phase 2 is to discover, and that is the planning process. You kind of need to gather a lot of existing condition data and to understand where we're at as of today. And then phase 3 is envision. Envision this is where we want to engage a lot of different stakeholders of the community to set our goals, to have a clear vision of where we want to head to. And then phase 4 is where the plan is being drafted, and there will be a commenting and a review period over there as well. And then phase 5, of course, that's the last phase. That's the implementation of the plan, and along with probably some monitoring mechanisms and keep updating what we possibly could. And weaved through these phases, there are some highlighted components. There are some purple ones over there. As you can see, there is deliverable 3A and 3B. Those are the big items that is related to public engagement. We have planned on different type of public engagement. One of them is we will send out handouts and materials and surveys and press release through different channels, social media, newspaper, and whatever we can think of. So that is a typical communication style. And then we will also have pop-up events. That's where we bring our staff and our consulting firm into the events that's already there. Say, for example, last year what we did for a couple different projects is Staff actually went to the parks movie night, of one of the movie night, and where there is already a large amount of people out there, and then have set up a table and try to gather feedback for certain project. So those are what the pop-up events like. And then we will have the yellow ones are more of a formal workshops as of traditionally how we would host these meetings. That include a workshop for visioning, that we're really talking about our dreams and what we see for the future. And then there is a planning and design charrette. This is a one-day effort. It doesn't require people participate to be there for a day, but staff will be there for a day, try to capture as much flow as possible, as much traffic as we could. And that is where we're gonna getting on our feet and put our hands down on really designing on what we see for our current conditions and what we wanted to make changes for the future. And then there will be open house. That's usually more of a presentation wise of our findings. And then we have open house 1, 2, and 3. And those are, each of them have a different target. Open house 1, we're gathering more feedbacks. Generally, open house 2, it is more of a presenting what we have found and what the drafted plan is like, and then gather feedback and continuously making changes to the plan. And open house 3 really is a presentation of the final product. And so along with the master plan, there is one thing a little different this year, or a little different to this project, is we have dedicated a resource to focus on a community-wide parking study. That has been a hot topic since I've been here. How could parking not be? And it came from different perspective of the community. The high school, we have a very unique urbanized area with a campus embedded in a neighborhood surrounding. And we have traditional neighborhoods who have very compact lots and are not large enough typically to build parking garages. And we have conflict with the different events and the necessary needs at different time. And of course, our downtown area, our business owners, they all have different needs. And then even more to think about the future, to think about what potential transition of the land use we could embed. There will be topic about how's our parking demand and supply look like, and what are the requirements that we should lay out, or what are the requirements we should get rid of. So those are the topics that will be weaved into this exercise. It is anticipated to be about 18 months for this entire product, including the parking study and the master plan, the final plan delivery. What we're asking here in front of Planning Commission first is to give you a background, and I would love to asking you if you have any question regarding to this process, and then I will try to answer it as much as possible. And the reason I'm giving you this opportunity to ask question is the second goal I have over here is I'd like the Planning Commission to form a subcommittee for the master plan. The subcommittee, along with me, join the subcommittee, will form a North Kansas City core team. So in the scope of work, we pointed out and defined a few different teams. One is the core team, the CT, like we really like those abbreviates. And then one is the technical committee. Those are the ones that focus more on the data analysis part, and they're mostly formed by our consulting firm, and then staff over here in the city as well. And then we also have stakeholder committee, and the stakeholder committee, we have not formed it yet, but it is probably one of the largest group. We're trying to reach out as many stakeholders as possible. What I can think of, we will have business representatives from North Kansas City Business Councils probably, and we will have high school representatives from the school district. We will have neighborhood leaders, and we will have bike and ped ad hoc committee members, and who promotes those multimodal transportations. We will have all sorts of ages and background and different cultures to try to get as many voices as we could to the table. So that's what the stakeholder committee look like. And over here, the core committee, I want to put more effort to explain what that is really the one that who does all the heavy lifting. So ideally, the subcommittee I'm requesting you to form today will have 3 planning commission members, and council member liaison and mayor is not included because council member liaison and mayor, they will be in a different group in the process, and consider how much they typically are involved in the city's work, and it's probably too much to ask them as well. And also on the other hand, we would love to get planning commission members to be involved because you all are a great voice from the community, and you are dealing a lot with the planning, zoning cases, and you're very experienced as well. So in order to not form a quorum, we can have not more than 3 planning commission members in this core team. And along with me, I'm also a member of the core team. Will become the North Kansas City officially, the core NKC core team, NKCT. It's not a great name for it. We need to come up with a better name. But this team will actually be joining the monthly meeting. There will be a monthly meeting. And prior to the monthly meeting, there is a kickoff meeting. As you can see, we already actually scheduled it. And there will be decisions on who needs to help with what pop-up events. So we might actually assign a core team member to cover different activities throughout the public engagement component. So this core team actually will be the real ones monitoring and managing this product along with our consulting firm. So I know you will have questions about how much contribution you need to put it in, and maybe along with other things. I'm here to answer the questions, and if you all agree, I'm hoping at the end of this discussion, we can elect a subcommittee over here to join the core team. All right, it's your turn.
Thank you, Shu. Any comments from Planning Commission?
I just wanted to make a couple questions just to pick your brain a little bit. So I joined the Planning Commission probably right at 2016, 17, right after the last master plan was done. And I saw in the note here that we, recognize that the growth of the city is one of the driving factors to redo it, 10 years later here. Is that common from your experience, a master plan every 10 years with high growth?
So,
or is there my question is there some way we could do it differently this time so we're not having to repeat in 10 years? I don't know how much these cost. Are they millions? I mean.
So it depends on how much work you're fabricated into the master plan. Like for our master plan, we have an overall master plan. They cover everything, like going from economic, demographic analysis to land use recommendations and analysis of infrastructure and your recreation, all aspects, because that's what a master plan is for. Typically in the planning world or professional area that we refer these as comprehensive plans, they should be the ultimate guidance for the city and for a lot of department as well, to be quite honest. And most of the cities I've seen, due to budget limitations, they're generally updating their comprehensive plans every 20 years. That's on the average I've been aware. And in our region, I know Kansas City just updated theirs a couple years ago, and now it's called the Kansas City Playbook. You can search on that. And before, they had a comprehensive plan called Focus. It was really old. I remember when I first started there and opened the comprehensive plan and saying this does not align with their zoning recommendations anymore. So I think you will know when is time to update it, and it is never for a planner to be forcing enough to see, I can make a plan that's great enough that we don't have to update it in 10 years. A lot of that comes with what is the growth coming to the city. And so in our plan, we will model a few different scenarios according to some of the uncertainty of the growth. We're trying to not update this as least often as possible because it is a massive amount of work. And anytime when you do a master plan update, the next step typically is to take a look at the zoning reform. Because after you reset your goals and your future goals for growth, what zoning does is it does not match or align with what your goal is because of that shift. And so you have to reanalyze your current zoning ordinances and see what updates you need to do. And those usually will take years to come. And then you finally enforce it and you'll find out problems in it, and then you will know, okay, lessons learned. Or there could just be some unexpected growth occurring, and then you will know, okay, it's time for us to adjust our regulations. But for us, I have to say, yes, we owe this update probably years ago, given the rapid growth that we probably did not anticipate it 10 years ago over there.
And that even is true for because I think we did a parking study 2018, but you're just saying based on the growth, even 7 years later, you need to redo that.
No, the parking study is a little different.
Okay.
So we had a parking management plan, and that one was done pretty much in-house, and it was only limited to downtown business area.
I see.
So it was not a community-wide parking study, and it doesn't have a focus on what about residential growth. What does that mean in certain areas for parking? So there were a lot of aspects that was not fabricated in that one. So I would not say this parking study is a redo or even an update to what we currently have. It is really probably the first overall thorough parking study that you will see.
I had a question.
Yes.
So, so you've been here a while. Did the city use this master plan as guidance?
Yes.
And was it, I guess the real question is, how much did COVID change some of that master plan? Because it's almost like society changed to some degree during that time period.
Sure. So COVID came after we did a zoning reform. So you're going to consider the master plan is a policy guidance. It means this is what we encourage. This is what we wanted to do. Whereas zoning is a law. It says this is the minimum you have to do. So after we updated a master plan in 2016, I say updated, I mean adopted, there was a zoning reform. Because in the master plan, there was already a zoning framework attached to it. And so we did a massive zoning code rewriting, basically. And that was generally down toward the second half year of 2018. And that was all pre-COVID. And there is, I would say, transition of the enforcement of the new zoning code. And there is nonconformity as well because of the update of the code. But as of today, what I can say is I don't believe the COVID made our zoning reform or master plan outdated. I don't think that's the reason behind it. I think largely it is because of the economic growth and the different land use growth in our city. And of course, there are a lot of causes to it that caused the needs for updating it. It is not because of the pandemic, I would say. And then what it does the master plan do to the pandemic, I don't think it impacted the pandemic very much neither. Because at that time, one of the things I remember was the parklet, the ordinance for parklets. They're the ones we allow dining, basically, for the on-street parking areas with certain parameters being defined. Those were adjusted during the COVID time. So there are mechanisms that you can do in response to these very rare and odd scenarios that is not a factor that cause our master plan needs to be updated or vice versa.
I would say that's a good reason to keep it up to date pretty frequently, is just the rapidness with which the economic conditions have changed over the last decade. Sorry. I will speak more directly. The economic conditions have changed a ton over the last decade, especially in North Kansas City. The impact of the regional economy and how it's playing out in our town has changed quite a bit, and a lot of the demands and a lot of the expectations about what might happen here in the future have changed a ton over the last decade. And so keeping the master plan, which is primarily a vision document, is, to me, a good idea. It's hard to keep it as like a living document because it is supposed to be, we spend a lot of time investing in this, but expectations and things change, so.
I'll ask. Is it time for the fun questions yet? The mayor's not here to help me through the wording on this, but let's say a Major League sports team was interested in North Kansas City, and we knew that timeline was in the near future. In the thought of, you need to replan if something happens. It seems to me like our timeline is a bit interesting because, you could say that we'll try to take that into consideration, but the reality is once they gave us a design or plans or something, we would probably have to redo everything. I think. Yeah, it would be a massive undertaking. So I assume that is understood that all these dates are subject to change if something like that were to come down and we had to take into something drastic that wasn't there, right? We wouldn't just keep everything on schedule with something that big, right?
We don't know what is the scenario over there, but what I mentioned earlier is that is one of the things, right? There are other uncertainties as well. So we will fabricate in when we say we give a consideration, it's not just simply, oh, what if happened? Let's adjust the number. We will literally looking into it as a case study. And we have already talked about this with our consulting firm throughout the interviews, because you don't know what you don't know. But this is why it's fun to do the planning part, that if it happens, what should we do? And I don't think necessarily it means we will have to make a big change to this plan, because the goal is to make this plan flexible enough and have captured that scenario. But maybe there will be some sort of amendment or update that is possible.
That was kind of my question. Part of my concern is, we don't know what's going to be down there, but there's a outside party owns 100+ acres, more or less, across the street from here with plans to redevelop it into something. So just how do we not sink a huge amount of money into this and it's immediately outdated?
So this is actually a great opportunity, if you think about it in a different way, that really hear what the community wants. Because this is what a master plan means is you're trying to lay out a community vision. It's not a vision from me. It's not a vision from our chair. It's not a vision from our council or even mayor. It is a vision from the community. That should be a great foundation to guide what your future needs to be. So we're taking a step ahead before we even see any proposal right now.
So
It is like we're giving the private market a signal. This is what we want. And I see it as it's actually a great opportunity for the community to put out the voices and then give even some guidance for the private market about what the community
I think
wants.
that's a really important point. Community input is always difficult to get, right? But around certain topics, which we've referenced, there is a lot of community input. And the feeling from the people I've talked to is, what does it matter if I come to the city council? What does it matter if I come to an open house? They're never going to listen to me anyway. But what you're saying is that with the input into the master plan, if the residents voiced that they wanted a certain thing and the city decided that they wanted to listen to the residents and do a certain thing, then when it came time to zoning, we would follow those guidance and not what outside interest wanted, right? It would have to be,
Right.
It would have to follow. So the master plan, to your point, is the resident's choice to get involved in a way that would support through policy, through zoning, what should or shouldn't be here.
I see it this way.
Okay.
And that
I
is
just
the-
think that's important if when we try to get people to get interested in this, that we say like this is how it works, right? And
This
this
is
is
what
how we make
matters.
changes.
Exactly. And
Sorry.
this is the way I've been taught at school. And I think this is the way how it should function because it becomes where you get the guidance from. And I don't think there is a better document than the master plan because the core of the master plan is the community voice. That's why we put a lot of items in the engagement deliverables that is related to public engagement. We will have a whole public engagement plan itself, and we have so many different stakeholder reviews, different channels to push out, and different ways to get people's input. And the reason for that, and that's where we're really spending the money at, and the reason for that is because we wanted to get a large community consensus, and which is always the hardest part to build. But what it matters is it guides our zoning. So for right now, we have a lot of traditional single-family residential zonings, right? I'm just throwing a hypothetical example over here. I'm not trying to manipulate one way or the other. Say we have a single-family residential zoning, which requires certain lots or areas to have one dwelling unit only. You cannot build a duplex. You cannot build a 3-unit or 4-unit. If we hear the community say, the affordability is an issue, and we want to encourage more density in certain areas, and we're okay with duplex. We're okay with duplex that not each of the dwelling unit needs to have a parking garage, then we can change the zoning code to allow such thing to happen. So later on, it's not just a policy guidance. That's where I said that usually leads to a zoning reform. It becomes the law. And if anybody comes say, "Oh, I wanted to build a 10-unit apartment on a single-family lot," which used to be a single-family lot, now it's a duplex. We can say, "No, the community's comfortable level right here," which put it into zoning, is that they want a duplex or triplex. That's how much the cap of the threshold they feel comfortable with. A 10-unit, you have to go through a different process, which is called rezoning. You have to ask for modification from that. So this is why I think, Byron, you just you hit it right on the spot, why this document matter. And I wanted anybody listening to this to understand that we truly want to hear your voice, and your voice does matter.
Kind of going off of that, can you just speak on like what the 2016 master plan, like what it accomplished so that community members would know
Sure.
kind of like what their voices meant then and what it can mean in the future?
Sure. I will try my best on this topic because I was not here in 2016 or later when the zoning was down. But, that's always the guidance that we need to understand. What does it do? If anybody is interested in knowing the details of the master plan and including all the public engagement process of it, it is on our website under the government, under community development. And there is a category that's called adopted plans. So if you click on adopted plans on the website, the first one comes up is the master plan. And the master plan itself has a bunch of appendix to it. There is an appendix for market analysis. The market analysis analyzed and diagnosed the demographic, economic, housing, and etc. over at that time. And then including, of course, the retail, office, and industrial uses. Those are economic factors. And then there is Appendix B, that's the zoning framework. So the zoning framework functioned really well at that time. It became a fundamental piece for the zoning reform later on. And then there is Appendix C and D and E. Those are area-focused components. There is the Armour Road redevelopment area, which, as we all know today, a lot of the people call One North. There was a component for that area very specifically, what type of development we want. And then there is also Burlington Corridor Complete Street. That's actually a part of the master plan idea, along with Road Complete Street. And then the last part was the bike master plan. So all of these are children evolved from the overall master plan. But at that time, I would say the most important thing the master plan did at that time was it divided the city into different areas. That's called characteristic area. And one of the characteristic area that we often refer in the zoning code is called the downtown characteristic area. That was the first time really we have a very clear and defined boundary about where is downtown characteristic area. It leads and link directly to the later on zoning reform of what we know as of today, C2. And for C2, there is no parking requirement. So that is a huge influence, as you can see how the logic goes, going from a policy guidance to zoning adoption and to enforcement as of today. And as far as I can tell, I think the zero parking requirement means zero off-street parking requirement. It makes sense. It definitely helped with our downtown businesses. Even though we hear a lot of controversial things and pressures, but at the end of the day, we do feel like it definitely helped with the downtown businesses and help guide the future growth, what type of growth we want. So those are the items that, we can take days and days to talk about the master plan. But at that time, there were a lot of public engagement was hosted as well. There was pop-up events, and there was community survey. There was open house, and there was planning commission hearing. One of the very important functionality you guys will hold is you'll have the initial hearing for the adoption of the final plan, and you'll make recommendation to the city council. So you guys will be the first body hearing all of this. And then there was public comments at that time as well. So that's how the community was engaged at that time. If we were to do a little bit different today, I would say we probably ought to make more efforts to different groups of our populations, not just including our regular population, our residents, but also including our daytime population. That's a very important factor as well. Because we, as I stated in the memo, we're a 25,000 daytime population community. There are a lot of people don't live here, but work here and spend some time here, either entertaining or contribute to this community. And they're part of this plan as well. So we will make some efforts to that.
Yeah, I do recall, the Complete Streets plan being part of the master plan, right, from 2016.
Yeah.
And then when it came time to implement it, there were a lot of people like, what are you talking about? I had no idea. If only I did. But like she was saying, there was a process, like a vision of, we're going to try to make this more walkable. We're going to try to slow down the speed of traffic. All this was discussed. And everybody said, well, I didn't know. So that when we're trying to create a new vision and things will change how they feel, how they're used, it's important for people to be there when the opportunity is to have input on that. And that might include businesses and residents. So I thought that was a good lesson learned, maybe.
One other example I would give is when I read the master plan for the first time, one of my big takeaways was one of the primary pieces of guidance it was providing was to preserve single-family housing in North Kansas City. And that influenced, I believe, this commission's, a lot of our work over the last couple of years, but in particular, really where the rubber meets the road on a lot of things, like with the church, the possibility of demolishing a church for a parking lot and two single-family houses for the same purpose. But by the same token, that guidance didn't prevent a project like Oxbow from happening, nor does Oxbow really interfere with our ability to preserve single-family housing. So this document is really high-level visioning of what the community wants to see, with all of the context that we now have over the last decade of how our decisions from the last process influenced development in the community, and how we might either want to recalibrate or double down on some of the things that we committed to in 2016. So that's just my take on it.
I will say, I do have a comment on that, what you said, and that was, I came here in about 2015, 2016, and I did go to like all these things that we're gonna do coming up. I mean, I was brand new, but I looked into it, I found out what was going on. I mean, I didn't have to search very much. I guess my point is this, that there will always be people to complain and say they didn't know. It's like when somebody I see on Facebook sometimes on the North Kansas City neighbors where they'll say, does our trash get picked up today? I'm like, first of all, you don't need to really ask that question in a forum. You can go to northkansascity.com and look up your trash pickup. I mean, but that happens a lot, right? And people actually complain about it. And it's like, you know, it is out there. You don't have to like scream it on these different forums or whatever. So I think we can't like, you know, as a commission, we can't like think that if we do it right, we're going to get hundreds of people to these events, right?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, there were, I thought the ones I went to had 40 or 50 people. And I thought, well, that's pretty good turnout. I mean,
Pretty good turnout.
I don't know, you know, you can put it out there and people will always take a route to say they either didn't know or if they said something, it wouldn't matter, which is a good way of saying, I'm not going to do it. You know,
I mean, I think
so,
people,
yeah, there you go. I mean,
I think people just also don't realize how long things take also, and how the process is, you know, I didn't know until I do about all the processes, like even at my job or whatever, like, oh, I have to go through this, I have to go through the government with this and this and this and this, and then I finally can purchase this or whatever. So I just don't think people understand the length of time. I mean, if the planning for making this takes 18 months, obviously, one of the projects that is going to happen from this is going to take years. So I think maybe coming up with some strategy to also remind people of what was discussed, I don't know.
We'll definitely have that in a public engagement plan. And to all your point, this is why we're trying to form a core committee involving a subcommittee from Planning Commission. Because when you are volunteered into the core committee, you're responsible to let all your neighbors know. And so you're the one spreading the words out as well. And I actually like people when they ask a question, I see it as this is the moment they get to know about this item. They might not care about it. They might care more than what they thought about, but it's an opportunity. So this is why I'm hoping to do it a little bit different this time, to involve a subcommittee from the Planning Commission. I really hope you all can, we can get some volunteers for it.
What, on that point, the core team, when you're doing a master plan like this, what's the occurrence of meetings? Like, what's the time commitment?
Okay, I'm glad you asked. So the core team, what I'm picturing ideally, and you guys can discuss and debate and make your decision, of course. What I pictured is the core team will have a monthly, mostly virtual, but there will be some in-person or at a minimum hybrid options with the project manager. So we have 2 main project managers and maybe involve a little bit more. So on the monthly meetings, there will be a very detailed update on what happened, what activities did we do, what are the accomplishments, do we have deliverables? Like, for example, the first one, which is the best part, is about branding. We need to figure out and define a theme and a logo to brand this comprehensive plan itself, because that's usually the first marketing step, that you do your branding, then it'll catch people's eye. And so there will be involvement on making decisions on which one you like, select it, and give comments back to the consulting firm and finalize it. And so we will have a monthly meeting. and it depends on how your guys' preference is. We could have a planning commissioner, one planning commissioner at each meeting, so you guys can serve at a rotating base, or you all could have just tried to come, and if we have one or two couldn't make it, that's okay as well. The other person can give update, or I can give an update later on. We can do follow-up as well. But no more than 3 planning commissioners, because I don't want to form a quorum and it make that become an issue as well. But you guys can talk with each other. So those are the biggest commitment. We're not asking you to draft anything. It will be done by staff and by our consulting firm. But most likely, we would need your input and ask your help for outreach to the community and to bring their feedback to us as well. Does
Yeah,
that
I
help?
kind of like on one hand, it'd be great to have the same 3 people through the whole process, but things happen, right? And people move or whatever. And so I feel like rotating people and having multiple people involved could have its advantages as we think about, how to participate.
Yeah, I think regardless, like whichever path we choose there, like we can't just keep these updates to the CT. It also needs to circulate back through these meetings that we have throughout that 18-month period. But in terms of whether we want to do like a solid set of 3 that's making that commitment, or the rotation or some variation of that, I don't really have much of a preference. I'm willing to toss my hat into the ring if necessary.
Do you all want it sound like a 3 is okay for you guys?
Mhm.
Do you guys want it to vote on, or just point at each other and recommend at each other? And
I'll
I think
volunteer.
Since it's
Right.
18 months, back to your point, maybe at the end of 6 months, we could,
Reevaluate.
yeah, just say, okay, everybody want to continue, or do we want to switch it up?
I'm also fine volunteering.
Abby might get tired talking to just 3 of us, so.
I mean, I don't mind volunteering. I can volunteer. I have plenty of time.
Yeah. Must be nice.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you have any?
Yeah, I'll be a backup because we can't have more than 3. But if there's a meeting one of you guys can't make, I'd be happy to jump into that. So we have 3.
perfect.
So maybe we want to just tackle it like that. We'll start with a core team of us 3, and we'll be in communication if one of us can't make a thing, so that we can coordinate with you to reach out to one of the other commissioners and tag in somebody.
Got it.
Okay.
And we can certainly make update reports
Yeah.
to the full commission when we see how that fits. Yep. Thank you all. That's not as hard as I thought. I thought
like
I
the
won't
idea
get
of an
many.
alternate. Thanks.
I mean, I live here. I want to have some say too.
Well, first person up if something happens in one of us.
Yeah, and I think if most of them are virtual, that's a much easier thing, right?
All right. I think we're done with the first item and the only item for discussion. Unless you all have any other questions for it.
Maybe just one last one. As you're going through the phases, is there a point where the core team comes back to the full planning commission with the mayor and everybody and is like, this is where we're at? Or is it only at like a final draft that it comes all the way back to planning commission?
So the phases over here are obligations for the consulting firm,
Okay.
because they are built by the scope of work. So this is what they have to do. But our core team can come to the full council to do an update or progress report at any time when we see fit. And that's not a bad idea.
Anything else?
I might be jumping way too far ahead, but I'm just looking at this list of documents to be part of this, and I know that source water protection plan just got approved. Would that make sense to consider with the land overlay and land use kind of stuff?
Absolutely. So we're keep modifying this list. These are the files that will be considered as background documents and existing plans and information when we are developing a master plan. So this file I provided over here is to give you an idea. This is like an inventory of our city, what we have. If you see things that are missing here, I would love to hear what those are, and I'll make notes, and we'll definitely add into this. It's a living document.
Good to
Thank
know.
you very much.
Last chance. Okie dokie. I guess that just leaves adjournment. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second?
I'm sorry, there's still a staff comment time.
Apologies.
I have one comment.
Yes.
Thank you, not saying thank you. That's not my comment. I just wanted to kind of have you all maybe discuss about the next meeting. We have a schedule for the January meeting. It falls on January 1st. I don't anticipate any applications that in front of you on January 1st, and that needs to be heard. So I would recommend you to cancel the January 1st meeting, and we can resume in February if needed.
Do you have to have a motion for that?
Yes.
I motion we cancel the January 1st, 2026 planning commission.
Second.
All in favor?
I
Aye.
Okay, since I skipped over 2 items, any comments from the commissioners?
No, I was just thinking, when is the next, like, when is the next election for? Because this project will actually probably take us through possibly changes with council members, right? Even terms on the planning commission. I don't know who's up next or anything, but
Yeah, we have to look into our planning commissioner's terms, but a lot of you have different term expiration date. So I can probably send the information out later to you all after I confirm. But if you're asking about the city council and mayor election, not the mayor election, the city council, I think it's April for next year.
this next year already.
This next
Wow,
year.
okay.
Okay, Megan, super awesome. Just checked. Everybody on our current planning commission are at least through 2027. So you all will be the ones hearing the final document,
My reign of terror continues.
unless anything happens that I cannot control.
Oh, let's hope not.
Anybody moves?
Yes.
Something like that? I hope not.
Anybody else? All righty. We once again move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Any second? All in favor?
Aye.